Hello, everyone. I'm Katie Earle, coordinator of the University Express program, and we're here with Rick Falkowski for an interview. Thank you, Rick, for joining us today.
It's going to be fun, you know.
As always, Rick's been involved with our program for a while, and he's such a great supporter, so I'm so excited to be interviewing him. And the first question we'll start with is, when did your love of music first begin?
Before I was born. You know, you could say it that way. In fact, both on the maternal and paternal, relatives back in Europe before they came to America, they were involved in either theater or music. My mother's side of the family, there was a guy named the name of Duke Durfert, who put on plays in the Polish, German, Russian area. And then he ended up coming to the United States, and he ended up putting on plays on the east side of Buffalo. And my father's side of the family, they were musicians in Russia, Poland, Germany area. And they used to play like 1 week long weddings. And then when they came to the United States, my father and his brother were both very early members of the Buffalo Musicians Union and everything like that. So, music and entertainment and everything like that is something that I guess I was just born into. Like I was first put on stage by my father when I was about 7 years old. Played timbales where he was playing at some club, who even knows where it was. And I started in a band before my freshman year of high school. So
Really?
before I started high school, I started playing in a band, and we were playing at all the teen clubs and school dances and everything, during the 1960s. And I can admit it now because, I guess the statute of limitations is gone. I was playing in all the bars when I was like 15, 16 years old back in the 1960s. They can't come after me now. I remember, who was it? Amico was the district attorney or something, the sheriff. He'd come after me probably.
I won't say a word.
Well, now we said it, so we're in trouble. So I started doing music all the way back then. So it's like I was born into it. It's something I've always enjoyed.
Yeah, really right through your veins. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So what instruments do you play?
Well, I started out like everybody else. I took accordion lessons, being a good Polish boy from Cheektowaga. I took accordion lessons at Edwin's, and then my father was a drummer, so I took drum lessons. And then I took trumpet lessons when I was in elementary school. But I actually started playing guitar before the Beatles. I started with the instrumental stuff. The Ventures were around before the Beatles. You don't even know what the Ventures are, but they were an instrumental guitar band. So that goes way, way, way back. So I've been in it from the beginning. It's something I've always enjoyed.
Wow. Okay. So in bands, I know you were huge in the Buffalo music entertainment industry. So I'm wondering if you can tell us how you created the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame.
Well, what we did is my wife and I played in bands together after I got out of the Air Force. So we played at all the disco clubs and everything like that during the 1970s. That was after doing all the teen clubs like myself in the 60s. In fact, I met my wife she was 15 years old illegally in a bar, and I was 15 years old illegally playing there, so we're not going to say where it was. But then we were playing together in bands in the 70s, and we had our third child. And said, okay, well, we're really not going to play that much anymore. So we decided to start a music newspaper. Don't ask me why. We just decided we're going to start a newspaper. Neither of us really had written or anything like that. We just loved music and we loved writing. So we started a magazine called Buffalo Backstage. That was in April of 1981. Do you remember April of 1981?
No, I wasn't even a thought yet.
See, that's what I figured. It was a long time ago, And so after we started the magazine, we said, we got to do something to bring more attention to Buffalo music. So we started our music awards. And the first Buffalo Music Awards was in November of 1981. And we gave awards to the best guitarist, best drummer, best rock band, best blues band, and everything like that. And it went over good. Believe it or not, we drew over 1,000 people for the very first one that we had. It was at a place called Rooftops, which was above the Seneca Show in South Buffalo. And so we ran the music awards for a couple of years. And there was this one band in Buffalo that was very, very popular. They were called Talus. Chalice was like the main band in Buffalo. In fact, Billy Sheehan was in that band, and he was later with David Lee Roth and Mr. Big and everything like that. So they were winning the awards every year. So we said, what can we do to have other people win? So we looked around and we found that other cities had halls of fame for musicians. And so we started the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame in 1983. And the first three people inducted into the Hall of Fame were Billy Sheehan, Paul Varga, and Dave Constantino of the band Talus. And then so that's how the Music Awards came to be. And I actually think when we started the Music Awards, we were like the second oldest in the United States. Second or third. I think Boston and San Francisco might be older than us. And the local Hall of Fame thing, it's actually one of the oldest in the country, starting that all the way back in 1983. So that grew when we added more people and everything like that. And, it was enjoyable. It was a real lot of fun doing it. It became an annual event, and we retired it after, well, not the Hall of Fame. We retired the Music Awards after 30 years. Things get old after a while. And the Hall of Fame's still there, and there's now hundreds of members, and other people are running it. Marcia and I are still involved, but now we can sit back and say, yep, this is something we did a long time ago. And then if somebody complains, they can complain to them. And we can always say, ask him. We didn't do it.
Oh, that's nice. I'm wondering who voted for the music awards? Who nominated people?
What we did is we had the magazine. So we distributed the magazine. We had a ballot inside of the magazine. And people would take the ballot out of the middle of the magazine and mail it in, which ended up becoming way too much because it got to the point where we had 7,000 people voting. And so we ended up making it just people from the industry could vote, which cut it down a bit, but made it a lot more difficult. But with anything, I hate to say, whenever you have any awards program, there's always popularity things, and nobody's ever happy with who won or anything like that, but so we tried as good as we could. But we were pleased with it, And so Marcia and I retired from the Hall of Fame, you could say, and I was working full-time for the cable company. I was with TCI, Adelphia, Time Warner, cable for over 25 years. So that was a little time consuming. So there's some things I couldn't do, I had to make a living, And then after I retired, I says, God, what can I do with music again? And I says, I always talked about writing a book about Buffalo music. So I thought about it, and I actually proposed writing a book to Canisius College about 20 years ago. And they ended up not accepting my proposal. And I still had all my notes, so I found my notes, and I actually, like about 5 years ago, started writing a book on the history of Buffalo music and entertainment. And then I went to a University Express talk, and I said, well, this is really cool, So I approached the person that was running it then, your predecessor, and he says, hey, could I do a talk on Buffalo music? And she said, sure. So that's how I got involved with University Express. And really, by doing them talks, it gave me the impetus to really get the book done. Because that book's been sitting there for years and years and years and years. So I finally finished that, and that was published in September of 2017. So I think I've been with you guys since maybe 2015.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time. God, I'm getting old. No.
Get out. Wow. So that was your first book. I know you've got another.
Well, I was doing the talks on music, and I enjoyed it so much. I says, I'd like to do more talks, because I was doing talks with you guys, and I started doing talks at senior centers and other places. I started doing talks at, nursing homes. They start, many, many different places. And I said, what can I do to do more talks? I just can't do, music talk, which ended up becoming 2 music talks, early and later music. So I said, I always liked history. I was always a big history buff. I always joked that I read every book that the bookmobile had. See, I lived in Cheektowaga, Sloan, so we didn't have libraries, but the bookmobile would come to our school, and I read every history book that they had there, so I always been a big history buff. So I said, I'm going to write a book on Buffalo history. I came up with the idea of doing historic and influential people from Buffalo. And it was just going to be one book. I started writing it and I said, God, there's so many people to write about. So I ended up making that first book, the 1800s. So I did 100 people from the 1800s. And it went over great. Everybody enjoyed it. And now I'm working on the 1900s. Now with the 1900s, I ran into another dilemma. There's way too many people from the 1900s. So the 1900s is actually going to be two separate books. And then there's going to be a third one about the 1900s, which will be the very late 1900s and the 2000s. So unfortunately, the thing that happened called COVID, I don't know if you're familiar with that. And that put a kink into everything that I was doing, because I couldn't give talks. I couldn't talk with people about doing the books and everything like that. So I had hoped to do one book a year. So my first book on history came out 2019 in the fall. In fact, my book release, I believe, is on Halloween or something like that at Talking Leaves. And I'd hoped to do one the next year. COVID put a kink into that. So the next book's going to be out probably in August or September of this year. And it'll be on the 1900s. And I'm having a riot with this now. Because the first book I did, well, I did the music book, I could talk to everybody. So the music book was all like firsthand, except for the stuff. I had a problem finding people like from Christie's Minstrels in the 1800s to talk to, and stuff like that. But all the recent people, it was direct interviews. The book on the 1800s is all just research. Now this book on the 1900s, I'm finding children and grandchildren from the people that I'm writing about. So I'm adding it, with information from them, and I'm having too much fun writing this book. In fact, I'm having so much fun writing it, either I might never finish it, or I'm going to keep writing more and more of the books because I'm enjoying, meeting so many very, very interesting people. Like I was just doing Mayor Schwab. He was Mayor of Buffalo during the Prohibition. And I met his grandson, and Mayor Schwab was a brewer. So it was pretty interesting. We have a guy that owned a brewery, and he ended up becoming mayor of Buffalo during Prohibition. In fact, when he was elected, he actually had federal charges against him because they raided his brewery, and they found out he wasn't making near beer. The beer was like 3% alcohol, so he actually had charges pending against him when he was elected mayor of Buffalo. Just things like that. It's so much fun. I'm having too much fun doing it. But maybe I'll just give the book away. No, I'm going to still say it.
There's no such thing as too much fun. It's awesome to see how excited you are. Now, with all those people you could select, how do you decide who to include in your book?
That's difficult. Like somebody wrote a review and they said, here's a book on the influential people from the 1800s as selected by the author. So it's just people that I consider interesting, people that did a lot. Is there a rhyme or reason? No, whoever just, I consider very interesting, I include. Are there some people I might be missing? Maybe, but then the one thing that's really interesting that happens, I'll be talking to one person and they'll go telling me about somebody else. And like when I put my book out in the 1800s, I had other people in there, the 100, that ended up not being in the book. In fact, their profiles, I call them profiles, not bios, because they're shorter than an entire bio, has been written, and who knows if it'll ever be used, because I just put the people I thought were the most interesting to the readers. And I try to get stories other than just the norm, things that might be interesting to people, so they'll go away with something, oh, I can tell you about, talk about something that Darwin Martin did. That isn't related to the Larkin business or something like that. You try to make it interesting,
It seems like a really fun chase almost. You start on one thing, you get connected with somebody else, or you learn about something else. That's really exciting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the thing's different is this is something I never did. Like I never wrote, my regular job, I was like the sales manager for the cable company for all the business accounts. My writing was just business correspondence and, information about stuff. So when I retired, it was like a whole new career for myself, writing the books. And I almost feel like I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, I'm like Colonel Sanders, when Colonel Sanders, stop working with whatever he was doing. He ended up starting Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I decided after I retired, I was going to become an author. So it's like a whole new life for me. Maybe it's keeping me younger. I did turn 70 last week. So
Last week, happy belated birthday.
yeah, belated birthday, right? Yeah, but it's so much fun because it's like a whole new career. It's a whole new thing. But it's like building off of what I always did. Sure, I always wrote, but it was business correspondence. Now I'm getting to write about history. And I always loved history. Like I said, I was joking about the bookmobile. I read every book in the bookmobile on history. So now I'm writing things about history, and it's so much fun. Because I'm hopefully writing about things that hadn't been written about before. And this will be carried on. And of course, there's always an ulterior motive for everything that you do too. Remember when you went to school, they said you're going to learn about local history, and you really didn't learn about local history. So by doing these books, it's almost like my thing. Let the kids learn about local history. So like my book on the 1800s, there's profiles of 100 people that were prominent in New York. People, if those books were ever in schools, people would learn about people from our area, and they'd learn about things that happened in our area. So now the book on the 1900s, like I started writing about, well, the one that would be interesting, like cars. Okay, so you had Pierce Arrow, you had the Thomas Flyer, and then you had a guy named Schuster that won a race around the world driving a Thomas Flyer. And then you had Moog, which did things with aerospace. From that, it ended up going into Bell and Curtis and everything like that. And there's so many things that people can learn about, and there's so many prominent people from Buffalo. I'm hoping that my books will eventually be picked up for being used in the schools to teach people about local history. We'll have the book on the 1800s, and then we'll have the 1900s, which could probably, like I was saying, probably be two books. And then it'll merge into the 2000s. And then you can add the music book into there. People can learn about what happened right here in Western New York. And I think kids would enjoy that in school. I know I would have. In fact, I enjoyed so much I'm writing about it.
You're right, that it gives us something to be proud of, learning about all the people from our area and what they've done.
But there's one thing I really miss, I have to say this, is getting out there and giving talks to people. When we started out, my family was musicians and acting and everything like that. I miss the thing of being in front of people and being able to talk. It's great talking right now. But this is just a screen. I'm not getting any feedback and everything like that, And I can't wait until this COVID's over. So you're talking your next you call semesters. That eventually this can be virtual again. I'm sure hoping that in the fall of 2021, it's not going to be virtual, where I can then again go to the Amherst Community Center and the Cheektowaga Community Center and everything like that and give talks to people, because there's nothing more than feedback from people. I could talk to a computer screen for an hour. What does the computer screen give back to me? But when you're talking with people, it's just so much fun. And plus, being a self-published author, that's when I get my book sales. When that fall semester comes, maybe I'll be able to give a talk on my new book on people from the 1900s. And I could just talk to a few people that I mentioned before, like Curtis and Bell and Thomas and Pierce. I give a whole talk just on the automotive and the airplane industry because it was that prominent in Buffalo. And so how many people know that? People don't. Like your great grandparents, my parents and stuff like that, they might have worked at the airplane industry during World War II, and Buffalo was very prominent in that. But people didn't know that much about the people behind it, And so that's hopefully I can impart that information to people and have fun doing it.
Yeah, well, and we appreciate that.
The one thing that I'm enjoying with this book, which is different than the other books, is getting to talk with the people. Like I mentioned before with the earlier books, it was all just research. But now, talking with, the grandchildren and children, everything like that of the people, that we're doing everything. It's so much fun finding out things that hopefully people never knew. And that's one thing I always try to get when I'm writing something or when I'm giving a presentation. Not just talk about the peripheral things, talk about something different that people didn't really know about. And that's what makes it fun. And it makes it fun, for myself because I found out the information, for the people there because they're finding out things different than they had before. So hopefully that makes it unique. And that's why I enjoy giving your talks, because I go to a whole bunch of different places and some of them are big, hold like over 100 people. And it's a riot when that many people come and hear a talk. And you get the feedback. That's what I'm saying. It's so different. There's no feedback like this. You're going, but it's different than, a whole bunch of people. But then again, there are the times when somebody falls asleep during one of the talks. And you can see the guy's wife, poking him,
Yeah, it's definitely a different time. But just thankful that we at least have this for now.
Right, right. Anything else you want to talk about, go into, or?
Well, the last question I have for you is, what is one fun fact about yourself that nobody really knows?
I don't know. It's a tough one. I don't know, because I'm a pretty open person, and I've been, well, let's put it this way. I started performing 55 years ago. So I've been in front of people for a long time. So I think there's, a lot, people have seen me around a lot, so there's a lot of things people might not know. What's great is me and Marcia have been married for 50 years. Okay, we're happy about that. And we still remember when we got married, they said, it's not going to last. We showed them.
You sure did. Jeez.
I have 3 kids. People might not know that. And each one of them are successful in their own ways. My oldest son is a computer programmer, and he writes the programs that everybody here is filled out. He writes the programs for you to get into college, for that computer company. And he works from his house, and, I'm really proud of the things that he's done. It's amazing. I have no idea what he's talking about sometimes. And my second oldest son, he shared my love of history, and he became a history teacher. And he went down to North Carolina, and he was hired to teach history there. And when he got there, they said there's no such thing as jobs for history teachers. So he taught math. So he's now a math teacher, in the city of Buffalo schools. He's at Burgard, and he's been there for, God, 15 years. So, one son doing that, and then my daughter, she's a nurse. She works at urgent care. So I'm proud of my 3 kids and what they did. It's very diverse with what each one of them did. But like, with Keith, teacher, he had shared the same love for history that I had. I wanted to be a history teacher, and they told me the same thing. There's no job for history teachers. So I ended up, going into business. And what else don't people know about me?
What's your favorite song of all time?
I played so many songs, and there's so many songs, that I love. That's really a difficult one. Yeah, one song I really liked, and it almost goes along with history. Was it "I Love You More Today Than Yesterday"? It's really a fantastic song, and it's just such a fun number, and it has some, fond memories for myself. That goes all the way back. It was way before your time. I think that was in the late '60s. But it's a really cool song. You got to listen to the words and everything like that. It's a good one. And I like a lot of the '60s soul stuff, because when I was a kid, that's what I performed musically. In fact, if you want a funny story, one of my best friends is a guy by the name of Van Taylor. And Van Taylor is a very prominent, well-known black keyboardist from Buffalo, who's traveled all around the world playing at USO shows. and he's played at all the embassies and everything like that. And he's called Tailor Made Jazz, and they do a lot of R&B. Well, back in the 1960s, there was a club called Chopin Singing Society on the east side of Buffalo. And there was a Polish singing society. In the front room, they had bands playing rock music. And in the back room, they had bands playing polka music. I was like 15, 16 years old. And my dad was on the board, so maybe that's how I was able to play there. But anyways, I was playing soul music in the front room. And I was singing songs by black artists like Wilson Pickett and the Temptations and stuff like that. Well, my friend Van Taylor was playing polka music in the back room. Okay, so we always joke about it. We didn't know each other then. We became great friends afterwards. But here's this white Polish guy from Cheektowaga singing black soul music in the front room. And there's this phenomenal, black keyboardist who's playing accordion, playing polka music in the back room. That's a funny story, I think. I don't know, it's different.
That is funny. Well, you've got a lot of memories and you've got a lot to be proud of, Rick.
Thank you. And I do the Tonawanda Gateway Harbor concert series. And that's something started 20 years ago. We decided last year, of course, it was canceled, like everything else was canceled. And we booked the entire concert series for this year. And people says, well, how can you do that? We said, we're just proceeding because something has to change. Something has to happen. Well, what about your restrictions? Well, we'll find out what the restrictions are when we get to them. And think about it. You run into this, with the county, the restrictions change every week. What's happening today is going to change later. So we have everything scheduled for concerts for this summer, at Gateway Park. And will they happen? Yeah. How many people are going to be able to come? Who knows? But you have to plan ahead. If you don't have, something to look forward to, I lose my motivation in writing if I don't have that.
You're right. We definitely need something to look forward to. And there's a lot of things going on right now, but we just have to be thankful for what we have and know that better days are coming ahead.
And I look forward to doing your talks again. Like, I really look forward to getting back in person and doing them. I'm hoping in the fall things will return to normal. And I'll do like 2 or 3 different talks for you because, you're going to have to say, Rick, you can't do that many, because I'm going to say, well, I want to do more. I want to do more because it's so much fun. And there's nothing better than when you talk about something and you see somebody's face and they have that aha look. And that's what I enjoy about my talks. If I can give a talk and I can have one person go, aha, I didn't know that, I consider myself successful.
Well, Rick, I appreciate you. I appreciate all you do for our program and educating everyone, and looking forward to having you virtual in the spring, hopefully in person in the fall. And thank you to everyone who's watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody. See you soon.